All right, so let's get started. So hello, everyone. Welcome to Talk to Tyler. My name is Tyler Eatman, of course, and today we have the instructors of our ESEPSY 1259 course, Learning and Motivation Strategies for Success in College. So if you can all just go around and just say your name for the audience, that'd be great.
Hi, I am Leah Janikowski.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kelsey Varzeas.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nguyen.
Thank you all. So yeah, we have three of our wonderful instructors of our 1259 course. Today we're going to get to know them a little bit more and also what 1259 is, so you all can enroll in it possibly and advertise it to your other students or anyone that wants to be in it. So our first question is for all of you. So what is your role at OSU and at the Dennis Learning Center? So we can start with Kelsey, then make our way around with Leah, then me.
Sounds great. So I am a second-year PhD student in the Higher Education and Student Affairs program. And with the DLC specifically, I'm an instructor at, obviously, with 1259. And then I'm also a graduate academic coach.
So I am a first-year doctoral student in the Educational Psychology program, and I am also an instructor of 1259 at the DLC.
Like Leah, I'm also a first-year doctoral student in the Ed Psych program here, and I also teach two sections of 1259.
Definitely all of our lovely instructors are getting their doctorate degree in whatever field that they're interested in. I hope you all are successful with that, honestly. So next question is, how long have you been at the DLC? I know you all talked about that you all are instructors. Most of you have some experience with other aspects of the DLC, but how long have you been around the DLC?
So I have been with the DLC now since last fall. So it's 3 semesters, almost a year and a half now, which is insane. It went by so quickly. So just about 3 semesters to a year and a half.
So this is actually my first semester here, so coming up on a full semester. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, this is also my first semester, and I've actually been fortunate enough to be in the DLC physically a handful of times this semester.
Well, definitely welcome to you all. This is the first year. I did not know that it was most of you first year. I know I have seen Kelsey a lot when I had my in-person coaching. Definitely a lot different now with COVID and everything. Kelsey teaching her classes and everything that's going on there. All right, awesome. So we talked about like the DLC, what you all like bring to the table with being at OSU, your role. But where are you originally all from?
So originally I grew up in Western Massachusetts in the two small towns, Springfield, Mass, and then moved to Wilbraham, Mass, but I just usually say Western Mass. But currently I'm actually on Cape Cod. When my parents retired, they moved down here. So that is where I currently am.
So I actually moved here from Buffalo, New York in August, so I'm new to the Columbus area.
I'm from Los Angeles, so pretty far out on the West Coast. I moved to Ann Arbor, Michigan, actually, for grad school a couple years ago. And then after a while working there, I came to my senses and decided to move down south to the better school.
Great answer for that. Great answer. But definitely, yeah, you all are just like all over, honestly. I'm also not from Ohio. I'm from New Jersey as well. So it's definitely interesting to have that out-of-stater perspective. There's a lot that Columbus does have to offer. That's why I do love this campus so much. All right, cool. So next question is, so a lot of you all said you are getting your doctorate's degree in your respective fields, but what is your previous like educational experience as well?
Mm-hmm. So I got my undergraduate degree at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, and we had this amazing program called the Bachelor's Degree with Individual Concentration. So I essentially got to create my undergrad major. I figured there was nothing at the university that I was interested in, so why not just create my own? So I created my degree for my undergrad as a Bachelor of Science, but it was in sports psychology for the disabled. So I wanted to work specifically with individuals with disabilities in the sport realm, psychology-wise, I guess you could could say. And then I went on immediately afterwards and got my master's of education in counseling with a specialization in sport and performance psychology.
So I went to undergrad at Buffalo State College, and I actually dual majored. My initial degree that I started out going for was actually in fine art with a focus in painting. And then towards the end of my undergrad career, I found psychology, and I decided to tack that on too. And after undergrad, I actually went and got my master's at the University at Buffalo in educational psychology and quantitative methods. So it's always my fun fact that I have an art degree and a quantitative methods degree. It usually confuses people.
So my journey has been kind of all over the place. I got my undergrad degree back at home in Los Angeles in engineering. And towards the end of my degree, I decided that I was really interested in higher education, or education broadly, but specifically higher education, because I had worked with a lot of the folks in the student affairs office and whatnot. And so I decided to pivot a little bit, and I went to Michigan in their higher education program. And then afterwards, I stuck around campus and worked as an academic advisor for a couple of years. And during that time, I became really interested in learning about how people learn. And so that's how I found myself in educational psychology.
Yeah, that's great. All of you, like all your different like education experiences. Like it's so interesting listening to like the instructors, different like backgrounds with their bachelors and masters. Definitely, I can tell that you're like an art because that picture behind you, like that painting, is very nice. But yeah, definitely interesting because it's like with our undergrad coaches as well. We have like all different majors as well, and then with instructors that too with their different backgrounds educationally. All right, cool. So now let's go more into like course information about our ESEPSY 1259 course. So the first question is going to go directly to Kelsey. So what is the ESEPSY 1259 course?
Sure. So this course is the Dennis Learning Center's flagship course, and the course is designed to help students develop behaviors, habits, and beliefs to help them succeed in college and become strategic learners. Some of the course topics I think are absolutely fascinating, and some of them that we cover are motivation, concentration, memory, note taking, and test taking. But what's so important about this course is that it's designed for any and all students at OSU. So it's not specifically for a certain type of student. Anybody can join it. Anybody can be a part of it and learn something from it.
Yeah, definitely a great course, I think. And plus like our other courses that we do have to offer as well. Definitely. Okay, cool. So our next question is going to go to Hui. So how is the class structured for students for this 1259 course?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I can talk about I guess what it ideally would look like, and then also what it looks like now with because of COVID. So this course is really interactive, right? And so basically every single class, we'll probably start with a short lecture from an instructor to briefly discuss some of the topics that we'll go over, but then we kind of break out into smaller groups to discuss how certain, maybe ideas or theories about motivation or interest or whatnot relate to our own personal experiences, right? And as Kelsey said, it's really key to kind of apply what we learn to our own learning processes and our own, classes that we're taking in this semester. So we have small groups. Sometimes I'll do large group discussions as well. We do jigsaws, pair and share. Ultimately, it's very active and it is very interactive. So we try to get people, now with COVID, we can't always, bunch up and then move people around. Everybody, at least those in the in-person section, everybody has to be 6 feet apart. But I still try and make it as interactive as possible. So I'll use, online polling or Quizlets or word clouds just to get people more involved.
Yeah, definitely it is hard for like a lot of, from an undergrad's perspective, with like different classes being in person, trying to get them involved is definitely hard. I bet, especially for like the professors, like I can't even imagine, but it seems like you all have like been doing a great job with that. All right, cool. So next question, we'll go to Leah. So what are the biggest takeaways for students that take this course?
So what I really want my students to leave the course knowing is that the skills and the resources they gain in this class are generalizable not only to their classes this semester, but for the rest of their life. So every other class they take in college and even beyond. So I have some seniors in my class who are taking this class to work on their time management skills. So when they go to work, they can incorporate that into their new position. And I also really want them to leave with a sense of confidence in themselves as students, that they now have the skills to succeed and they know where to go for help and they know what to do when they face obstacles that you're bound to face in college. Basically, I like to think of this course as like developing a toolbox that you can take with you for the rest of your life.
I like that analogy. All right. So, so what does this information that is being taught in class come from?
Yeah, so the majority of the information that students learn from this course are derived from decades of research in education, in psychology, cognitive neuroscience, and so a lot of that stuff gets covered, both in the textbook, but also in the mini lectures that the instructors provide, right? But then I would say the other source of knowledge or information also comes from the students. As I mentioned before, this class is very interactive and we try to get students to connect what they're learning to their own personal or prior experiences, right? And so, and that, that prior knowledge and experience is something that every student, brings into the class. So what we try to do is try to get students to harness that and combine that with what they learn. We'll also sometimes supplement the course with information that we find or we research. It depends on different instructors. So some instructors may focus more on motivation, or I may focus a little bit more and do some research on test anxiety or something. Depends, on what I think my students will like, or if I poll my students and if that's what they're interested in, then I'll also cover that.
Yeah, so definitely like there's a whole bunch of like different aspects of like different topic areas that you all cover with educational psychology, but like a focus on learning and motivation, which is definitely great. All right, so for Leah, are there any quizzes or tests, and what is the grading like for the class?
Sure, so we don't have any quizzes or tests unless you count Kahoot, which is just for fun and practice. We have weekly assignments where we really try to tap into the content that we were learning that week. So for example, during the time management unit, we'll have an assignment where students try out a different type of calendar they haven't used before, and then they reflect on their experiences with it. So the assignments themselves are really practical, and a lot of the times they get to use them with their other classes. And also, as we mentioned, participation is a big one. So especially in our in-person section, I also am taught in person this semester. And coming to class, even if it's virtually, and engaging in the material is really important. So that part of your grade does come from coming to class as well as actively participating. And then we do have a big end of the semester final project that we work on throughout the semester that's based on the students' own personal goals for themselves.
Yeah, that's definitely like a interesting aspect. With definitely not having like quizzes and tests. Like a lot of like undergrad students will definitely like appreciate that, but they do get the most out of it with different other assessments probably and other things that you all can do. So Kelsey, so what is a difficult topic that is hard for students to understand within the 1259 course?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I think what's really important to remember here is that it really depends on the individual, right? So, people come to this class with different backgrounds and experiences, and what's hard for one student is going to be might be easy for another student, or they may find someone else in the class who has an area of improvement that they would like to work upon that's similar to theirs. So they're able to kind of match with someone sometimes, which is really beautiful as well. So, but if I was to kind of see an area of improvement that folks like to focus on, it's usually around procrastination and time management. I notice that it happens a lot with folks, and that is definitely something that we talk about in depth in all of our classes. And yeah, I would say that's probably the area that I see most folks want to focus on.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of folks that do come for coaching with that as well. So it's definitely with the coaching, academic coaching perspective, we definitely refer them back to the courses that we do have and offer, like the 1259 course and our other courses. But definitely like interchanging them and like helping each other out with definitely for them to understand the information.
Yeah. Tyler, do you mind if I add something on to that last question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so this isn't like a topic or a unit that students struggle with, but I think something that I've noticed a fair number of my students are hesitant to do is to be willing to speak openly about struggling, especially academically, and that is completely understandable, right? Because we're in an environment that ultimately stresses success, and there's a lot of pressure there. But I encourage a lot of my students to try and, push that boundary of comfort a little bit and be willing to share. And I'll sometimes, share my own experiences of, my own struggles, because I think there's a lot of a comfort in seeing that others also struggle, but then also recognizing that is kind of the first step in addressing some of those struggles, right? Using some of the strategies from the course.
Yeah, it's definitely like that for like some coaching too, like that idea, like not everyone's like a perfect student, and definitely like everyone else that has their different struggles, and like imposter syndrome starts to come in by them comparing each other with it. So definitely I think that's like a great thing that you do with your class. Leah, is there anything that you do with your class specifically about like difficult topics that you see or like hesitation that they might have?
Sure. I would just like to bounce off of my two other instructors here. I did include a subunit this semester on facing failure, and I thought that was a really important thing to talk about as well, and also sharing my own personal experiences, because I think it's important students know you don't get to a PhD program without facing some failures along the way, and it's okay, and a lot of growth comes out of failure. So I will just go ahead and agree with them on that.
Awesome. Well, this is also another question to you, Leah. So how do you keep students accountable this semester, especially with COVID going on? I know definitely there are probably some personal problems that some students might be facing as well. So how do you keep these students accountable this semester?
Sure. So I think first, when you think about accountability, it actually does start with the instructor. So I like to make sure that I lay out super clear expectations about what I am looking for in their work and their behavior and activity in class, and let them know just what they're expected to do throughout the semester. And on that, I let them know that if I'm ever unclear or they're confused about something, it's always an open door to send me an email anytime for clarifications. I'm notorious for responding to emails within like 2 minutes of my students sending them. I think it kind of freaks them out sometimes. But so first step, clear expectations. And then the second step is giving good, clear feedback to my students about their work and if they're not reaching the expectations that I have. And then allowing them to resubmit their work if they feel like they can do better. And I'm also was definitely more flexible this semester because it is a very stressful time for everyone, especially new undergrads who are just coming into this college environment during a global pandemic. So as long as students communicate with me, we were pretty good with accountability this semester.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of professors do not have that accountability aspect of it. So definitely, I 100% agree with you with that one. So next question goes to we. So how has the course been taught differently from in-person and online? I know you talked about it just a little bit, but also what are the benefits of the in-person or the online course?
Yeah, so I think so. I taught two in-person sections this semester, so I can't speak for like the fully online sections. I know we have a couple of those, but nevertheless, it's been, I think, quite different, and on a pretty superficial level, like things like handouts I can't really print out or give to people anymore, right? So now everything has to be transitioned to Carmen or to Google or whatever. But then I think it's just tough to learn as an instructor how to facilitate discussions based on not being able to have groups work together on a physical sheet or a board or something like that. um, I think for both me as an instructor and for my students, we've had to become a lot more vigilant with Carmen, in terms of checking it often, making sure that assignments are or deadlines are met and assignments are submitted on time and things like that. In terms of benefits, I would love if we could just have normal like in-person classes like usual. That's what I am more familiar with and used to. But also like the in-person or the real-time component to me is really important because that's when ideas can get generate and then they gain momentum, right? So one student say, hey, this is my experience with procrastination, and then you automatically get another student chimes in and says, oh, me too. And so that's how a lot of the discussions flourish and grow. It's definitely harder when you do it online or even in or my bad, synchronous Zoom meetings, when you've got 20 students' faces on the screen. Um, it's just tougher because I think we're so used to um, having that real time component. But then there's also visual and spatial information that we don't get from Zoom.
Yeah, it's definitely hard trying to like read like obviously like a classroom when you're on doing it on Zoom and trying to see if like your students are understanding the content and information that you're presenting, rather than like having that in person classes and seeing if they are like receptive to the information. But definitely like you really can't see their like facial expressions really because of the mask that's over their face. But definitely I do see like the challenges and also the benefits for both of them as well.
Tyler, I actually teach asynchronously online, so maybe I could speak really quickly to that if that's helpful.
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Yeah, so we also offer an online version of this course as well. And this is actually my first semester ever teaching it. And so the course is asynchronous online. So what's really important for folks to understand if they want to register for this course is a lot of it is done on your own. So I am providing the material, I'm supporting you through every step of the process. Like as Leah said, you can reach out to me whenever, and I'm kind of odd and answer emails very quickly as well. But a lot of it is without, that facial interaction because you don't see one another on Zoom, or obviously because it's online, we're not in person. So that's something important to keep in mind. But it's also a really great opportunity to test yourself in terms of like self-regulation and self-motivation. Like, can I do this in an online setting by myself and motivate myself to get through this course? But like I said, I'm always there to help out in any step of the process. But it's also a really great opportunity if folks want to learn in their own time and have that a little bit more of a flexible structure, which may work better with some folks' schedules, especially with all that's going on right now.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. That's great that you are like receptive to the students, and also like I did not know like there was like an asynchronous component too. So that's something that I found out. It's very interesting. Definitely like it's great that you're there to guide them through the whole process, and definitely they don't feel as alone because with some asynchronous courses, you can definitely feel that you never do see the professor and see if you can interact with them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So these next set of questions are about our 1259 showcase. So since there is not really any exams or quizzes or tests, there is a showcase that it does happen usually at the end of the semester for the students to look at their research to see what they can do with different information that they have learned. Definitely can look a lot different this year. I absolutely know it just a little bit about it, but if you all can just talk a little bit about it throughout these several questions, that would be very helpful. So the first question goes to Kelsey. So how long has the showcase been incorporated in this course?
Sure. So I have to give a big shout out to Lauren, Dr. Lauren Hensley, who's our supervisor. I actually didn't know, and I had to reach out to her, and I was like, Lauren, I don't know. How long has this been in part of the course? And so it's been around for about 2 years. And from what she told me, it was thanks to EHE Signature Course Grant that the 1259 instructional team submitted with Lauren's help and with Dr. Walter's help to provide additional relevance for students and to develop a transformative capstone experience for the course. So it's been around for 2 years and it is so much fun. I love it. It's probably one of my favorite parts of this semester.
Yeah, definitely. I did not know it was only for 2 years. This is like very impressive, like seeing the students do everything. Definitely, I always go to them, try to go to them during the fall semesters. But definitely interesting, only two. Wow, just 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So Kelsey, these next questions are going to be directed towards you since you have taught the course before in the past. So what is the purpose of the showcase?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think actually Leah touched upon it in one of the earlier questions, but each student engages in a semester-long course project which centers on a goal of their choosing. And the focus of their goal is to improve an area of their lives that they hope to focus on and improve upon. And that could be academic or personal. So I've had folks talk about raising their GPAs. I've also had folks talk about, wanting to run a marathon, so a lot of different goals in their lives, and they choose a book to read. And in this book, they take strategies from the book, track their implementation of the strategies to see how it changes their goal at the end of the semester. So when I think about the purpose of the showcase, it's to allow the students to share with their fellow peers and guests the goal that they worked on during the semester, how they track their behavior change, and what lessons that they learned from the experience. It's a really neat opportunity not only to be able to share your work, but see what your fellow peers did on their goals as well.
Yeah, it's definitely like a huge component. Definitely like it's personal, like for what's for them, not just like what's for the class, but for themselves.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So what do you think the students take away from the showcase?
Oh my gosh, so much. I think that, when I kind of think about it in two realms here. The first one is the project. So I think there's a lot of takeaway with this project, but when I think about it as a whole, I think for a lot of them, they recognize that change is possible. Sometimes we get static in our habits, right? And we just do the same thing over and over again. But when you set a goal and you recognize that, wait a minute, I'm seeing myself change and I'm seeing the progression that I made to succeed at this goal. So I think it's that recognition that change is possible. I think also that they have the ability to change within themselves. So maybe some self-regulation and autonomy there to make those changes. So that's kind of what I see in the project. And then in the showcase, oh my goodness, they take away the opportunity of presenting in front of folks. Maybe some of them haven't ever done that or haven't done that we kind of try to make it like how do I phrase this? Like if you're going to a conference and there's, poster presentations. So we kind of frame it in that sense to give them the opportunity as if they were going to a conference, this is, how they would present. So we give them that opportunity, and that's what they may take away is a good practice to be able to speak on a topic and something that they were passionate about. And then I also think that the showcase provides them with some motivation. You finish the end of the semester, you get to present this awesome, piece and thing that you worked on. And it might carry on that little bit of motivation into the next semester, into seeing like, okay, I've succeeded here. How can I succeed in my other classes moving forward? Or if they're graduating senior, how can I succeed after college? So I think those are some of the takeaways that I notice with the students.
Yeah, it's definitely they're learning like different other skills too. I think that's the major component, like to get from your responses. So that motivation aspect, but also like other skills like communicating with others, especially like what they came up with for their final project.
Definitely.
So next question goes to we. So due to COVID and all the restrictions at the university with classes, how has the showcase changed this semester for the 1259 course?
So based on my understanding of what was happening in previous semesters and based on what Kelsey mentioned earlier, what it used to look like was that people would usually create some sort of poster or trifold, and then we'd line them up in the space inside the DLC, and each class gets to walk around and view people's projects. Obviously, that can't happen this year. So for my class, my class sections at least, what I had people do was just share in small groups. I decided to do it this week over Zoom. And we had I split people into different breakout rooms, and then people were able to share. But then I also asked students to provide feedback to one another, right? So if things weren't clear, then that gives the presenter an opportunity to kind of tweak their work a little bit. Once everyone is finished submitting, I think I'm gonna compile everything and then allow everybody to view each other's projects, because I think as Kelsey mentioned, there's a lot of value in seeing other people's progress and achievement over the semester. And it's in my opinion, it's great to see an individual student talk with a lot of excitement and enthusiasm about what they were able to accomplish through their project, but also see it reflected on other students' faces.
Yeah, definitely. Like there has been like a lot of different things, and it's great that like each of you have like adapted towards it for like the betterment of the students as well. So Leah, so what is like the major project for this class instead of the showcase? I know we talked a little bit about it, but like what have you been doing with your classes, and like what is the major project or outline of it for your class?
Yeah, so the project itself essentially hasn't changed. So students still pick a personal or academic goal and then pick a book they think will help them achieve that goal and track their progress throughout the semester. And it really, the big difference this semester is the change in the showcase. And we all, as instructors, especially the in-person instructors, kind of did what we felt was best for our students for the presentation. So I personally, throughout the semester, I chose to teach hybrid. So I taught students in person while also having Zoom up and having the students who couldn't be there for whatever reason on Zoom so they could still participate in class. So I ended up doing individual presentations in that same method. So I had students either present over Zoom, and I hooked up the HDMI cord to the big projector so that the in-person students could see what they were working on. And then, of course, directed the Zoom camera towards the students who were presenting in person. And I think this semester, my students got really creative with the format of their projects. I heard in prior semesters, we've had a lot of posters. I had lots of podcasts and vlogs and blogs and digital journals and really cool stuff. My students really took this as an opportunity to get creative with their projects. So I think that's one of the benefits that came out of having the semester in such a weird format.
Yeah, definitely creativity is like a big thing now, like especially like with different aspects of presenting. I know for my classes, using things like Canva, possibly like making presentations, doing commercial videos actually for my marketing class. So definitely interesting like creativity and seeing how people are very creative. All right. So this question is actually for all of you. So any one of you can answer it. So what are you most proud of in the 1259 course?
So this semester, this is more, and I guess not course specific, but I am just honestly so proud of the adaptability and resilience that my students have shown. I am just so impressed, especially because most of my students are first year students, and their ability to jump right into this environment and put the energy and effort in to really thrive as students this semester. I am I'm gonna miss them terribly.
Yeah, I would absolutely echo that. I can't speak to anybody else for anybody else's students, but my students are rock stars. Like, I think even in an online setting, asynchronously, they've reached out, they've asked questions, they've sent pictures. I've seen their cats and their dogs and their families. So, it's, to echo what Leah said, yeah, their adaptability and just the fact that they're willing to engage is so meaningful, especially with all that's going on. So yeah, the students 100%.
Yeah, I have to agree with that too, and especially seeing how they've grown over the semester. I think when we um, reading their assignments, but also hearing or listening to them talk in class, thinking or reflecting about what they've done before versus what they've done now, how they've changed things, and that has been really heartwarming because for me, inside I'm like super excited. I think like, yeah, that's exactly what this class is meant to do. So it's great. And I look forward to teaching all the time because it's such a great environment, outside of my own classes I'm taking.
Yeah, I'll just jump back in for a second and say, like, what's really cool about this course is that we do create a community. So it's not like a big lecture hall. Like, my students know each other. Like, they walk to class together. They really get to rely on each other for support, which is especially important during this time when we're all kind of divided just because of necessity.
Yeah, definitely making those connections are really great. And like that's great that like you're seeing your students do that as well. So within the 1259 course, what is your favorite topic to teach? Maybe something that you're probably having like you're focusing on for your doctoral degree, but what is your favorite topic to teach within 1259?
I know one thing that I love that is scheduled into the syllabus is you get to choose a course or choose a topic. And I always think that's really fun because you can get creative as an instructor as well. And so as I mentioned earlier in this talk to Tyler, I have a background in counseling. And so I love to talk to students about stress and anxiety and how we can manage that in a college setting. And because, as we mentioned before, those are transferable skills. Those are things you can take outside of this course and, use in your everyday life or, share with friends or talk to people about it and become more open about mental health. And, that's one of my favorite things to teach because I think in some ways it can help everybody in different ways, but everybody can benefit from it.
I'm very similar to Kelsey. That's also my favorite unit to teach. I think a lot of times things like stress management get put on the back burner because students don't realize how much it impacts every other area of their life. They're so focused on their academics, they don't realize that their stress level is affecting their academics. But in addition to that unit, I also really enjoyed the unit we have on self-confidence and developing our just ability to be confident in who we are as students and people.
Yeah, it's hard because there's so many different topics that I like teaching. One of my favorites this semester has been about habit formation. So specifically, what is it psychologically that causes a habit to stick versus not sticking? But I'd say more broadly, I've really enjoyed teaching students how to be better analyzers of their own thought processes. Right? And this varies between, across, I think it's transferable to different units and different topics. So in terms of motivation, procrastination, confidence. So what I like to do is, kind of ask students a lot of follow-up questions to try and get them to verbalize, but also think about why it is that they may have thought, a certain thing about another thing, or why they have a certain mindset about something, whether they did well or did poorly on an assignment or on a test. because I try to stress to my students that, the first thing, you can learn, as Leah said, you can learn in this class all these tools and create this huge toolbox of all these strategies and skills that you can use. But to actually use them effectively, you have to be able to recognize when, something is coming up, or there's an issue that needs to be addressed. And then more importantly, recognize which tool out of your toolbox you use, because you can't use a hammer for everything, right? And so it's I will say it's not always comfortable for some students, because I can see that, because they're not used to that, and they're like, oh, why is he asking me all these questions? Can he just stop? But I think it's important to kind of really dive down into your own thought process, to tease all of that out, and then start chipping away at some of like the maladaptive behaviors and thinking.
Yeah, that even makes me think. That's very interesting. Like my classes, like, okay, is this studying technique gonna work for this class? Like just me overall thinking, like, as finals do come up, like what strategy should I use best? And also definitely mental health is definitely a huge one that definitely is affecting a lot of people, and like being more aware of, especially with stress and anxiety with college students. So it's great that you present on those topics in your classes as well. So, what have you all learned from your students this semester that has been helpful for your career?
So,
Go ahead, Leah.
okay. I've learned so much from my students this semester, especially being new to teaching. I guess the first thing is that I love teaching and that students are some of the coolest people to interact with. But another big thing I learned is that everyone comes with their individual strengths that can be capitalized and during different times in the semester. Like I have some students that come in with really strong public speaking skills and they're really confident talking in class. And I use that to encourage the other students in class who maybe aren't as comfortable to speak, maybe pairing up those students to have a conversation. And then I have other students who come in with some study strategies that are really cool and I haven't even heard of before. So, and then I get to incorporate those in my lessons. So I had a student share study strategy in my first class, and then I was able to use that study strategy and teach it to my second class, which was a really cool situation.
Yeah, I think, this semester, as we've mentioned before, has been so vastly different than any other semester. And what, gosh, what I've learned from my students is so much. But one thing that I just admire so much from them is the way that they advocate for their needs and ask for help. It is so hard, I think, nowadays for folks in any sort of realm to learn to ask for help. And for my students to continually teach that to me, and say, Kelsey, I need help with this, or can you explain this differently, or I need an extension, or whatever it might be, that to me is so humbling because it's not something I do easily. So I love that they continually show me that it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to advocate for your needs and it's okay to get a little bit vulnerable, because I think that's so important in terms of just developing ourselves as human beings.
I think one of the things that I appreciate the most, was just kind of learning about my students as people, right? There's always stuff that we have to cover in class to make sure we're on track, but I really cherish the moments where I can just converse and talk to them as human beings, right? Like, did you do anything fun this weekend? And then they talk about, all the things they did, or like, the animals they saw, and we get to commiserate on things that we have in common outside of school. And I think that makes it so much more enjoyable, right? Because so, in addition to being invested in their success as students, I become more invested and attached to my students in their personal, growth and success as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like even like with my students, definitely where I help them with academic coaching, it's just how they're like balancing out like these hard classes like the chem, bio, and physics, especially the STEM courses we do have. Definitely hard to balance those things out, and especially doing it during a whole global pandemic is definitely harder to do as well. Um, so what has been like the weirdest Zoom experience with your 1259 course or like any other courses that you're taking for your doctoral program? What has been like the weirdest experience you all have experienced with that?
So actually this Tuesday during presentations, I had what I'd like to call a series of unfortunate events that occurred. Um, as mentioned, I do teach hybrid, so we were in person and on Zoom at the time. And I was using a computer that I wasn't familiar with, and it malfunctioned in the middle of presentations and just completely shut down. So I immediately went over to another laptop I happened to have sitting next to me, and I logged on to Zoom there. But as soon as I did that, my other computer started working again. So I had two Zooms up and the noise feed was just going back and forth. So when I tried to exit out of my personal laptop, I accidentally ended the entire Zoom meeting. And my entire in-person class was just like yelling, no, as it happened. But I have very, very bright, technologically savvy students who just immediately knew to just log back on. They know I have some tech issues. So it all worked out in the end, and it only lasted a few minutes. But I would say that's probably the biggest issue I've had with Zoom this semester.
Well, I'm not sure I can top that, but I haven't taught 1259 either synchronously or, using any sort of Zoom, but in my own personal classes, um, over the summer, I took a class and there was a student in the class who wasn't wearing a shirt during any of our classes. Like, I don't know if he purposely did this or didn't know his like video was on. I think he must have known his video was on, because to continuously not wear a shirt, I mean, I don't know. But that was definitely something that made me blush and also be like, does he know? Like, it was kind of like that scandalous of like immediately texting my friends in the class being like, do you see that one kid? Does he not know he has a shirt on? So anywho, that was definitely probably one of my weirdest Zoom experiences. It also made me like a little bit uncomfortable too.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything as interesting or scandalous as as what you had, Kelsey. I will say it's funny because in all my experiences being in Zoom classes or Zoom meetings and seeing other people run into any issues, I always tell myself like that will never be me, right? And so when I'm preparing for my own Zoom class with in 1259, I watch all the tutorials, make sure I know what I'm supposed to do, and then comes like the actual class and I try to do it and something always goes wrong. And so this last week it was like I couldn't for some reason people couldn't share screens, and even though I had double checked, triple checked to make sure that option was available. But yeah, I don't think I'll ever become a I don't know if they have a Zoom proficiency certification or something.
Yeah, definitely there's a whole bunch of struggles with Zoom, especially with my professors, definitely trying to navigate through things when they share their screen, trying to look at other students and call on them, especially if you have a lecture of 70 students. Definitely, it's hard to do that, to look at everyone. Um, so, what do you all love about the Dennis Learning Center? So I know you are involved with a lot of things with like your instruction with the 1259 course, but outside of that or within that, what do you love about the Dennis Learning Center?
So I will say that I like and I appreciate that such a center exists, right? And this is kind of my back, me being an academic advisor speaking, but an incredible number of students, I think, struggle in college, whether it's the first year or throughout. And that is normal because ultimately it's a huge change in environment, change in demands and expectations, right? So that transition is really important. And to have a center like the DLC that supports students learning, especially in crucial transition periods, is wonderful, right? Because that is, the institution or the university and the staff acknowledging that this is important to student success. And so I like that we have, not just 1259 as a class, but also, lots of other classes that we teach. We have academic coaching. We have workshops, right? And so part of me wants to, like, if I had, the administrative power, I would make it mandatory, for everybody to, or every incoming student to take 1259 or meet with an academic coach or something like that. But yeah, I'm quite sad that because of COVID, I haven't been able to meet all the staff at the DLC. I'll come in to teach, twice a week, and then there would be maybe 1 or 2 staff members there, which is a bummer. But hopefully in the future we can get back to normal and I can actually see everybody.
Yeah, I'll say very similarly. The resources that the DLC provides are amazing. Thinking back to my first year of college, I definitely wish I had an opportunity to take a course like 1259, because it really does provide you the skills that you should learn in high school, but a lot of people don't get the opportunity to learn in high school. And I also say I do really like the community. Even though we're all online, I still have gotten a chance to get to know, like I was just talking to Jackie Von Spiegel last night on Zoom because I needed help with something. And she was like, sure, like we could meet later tonight, even though it was probably inconvenient for her. Everyone here is really helpful and supportive. So I would say that's a big one for me.
Yeah, I absolutely echo what both of these wonderful people said as well. Like I think the thing about the Dentist Learning Center that I adore are the people. Everybody, I just love everybody. And that sounds so like maybe cliche or I don't know, nerdy, but everybody is so kind. And not only that, but they're willing to help. And I think that is the most powerful thing, is that we're willing to help not only each other as staff, but any student who walks through that door. We want to help you. Like that's what we're there to do. And it's not just undergraduate students either. Like we have a lot of supports for graduate students and professional students as well that most folks don't realize. So it's definitely the people and that it's made for everybody. So I think, it's just a very comforting place. Like people are welcome there and I don't know, it's just enjoyable. So I don't know. Can I say I love everything about the DLC? Because it's actually true.
Yeah, definitely the DLC has like a lot to offer, especially with the different people. To echo of Leah, Jackie has definitely been a great boss and just helping out everything. Does a fantastic job. But also having a center like this is very important too for students to seek like that academic help and resources that they do need. Well, thank you for you all for participating in the Talk to Tyler. Definitely to get more information about this 1259 course. If students want to enroll in this course, definitely you can just look on our website. If you go under our courses to look at more in-depth information about it, you can do that. And also enroll in the course. There's a quick link application to do that as well. I believe there's still some spots opening for our 1259 course. I'm going to head nod yes. Okay, so there are some spots still open. You all can just go on your Buckeye link and to add them. Definitely if there's in-person or online versions, definitely highly recommend that you take this course. And that's all that I have for everyone today. So thank you all for coming out and speaking with me today. Definitely enjoy your holidays with Thanksgiving being next week, eating a lot of turkey. And I will see you again for our December's Talk to Tyler. So everyone have a great day.